Hello, hello, hello. Welcome for another episode of Author Spotlight. Hey, it's your host with the most, your main man, Darren M. Palmer. Excited to be with you where I get the honor and the privilege to go behind the scenes with best-selling authors from around the world. Today I got my girl on. She's one of the best jump shooters that we got that ever been on Author Spotlight. We got my girl Aisha Foy in the business. Say hello, Aisha.
Hey, hey, how y'all doing? Thank you for having me, Darren.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. We had to have you on. Aisha, if you don't mind, how this show goes, I want you just to share a little bit about who you are and why this book, Success is My Measure, as your first book. Could you talk to the audience about that?
Absolutely. I like to say I'm just a little girl with big dreams. Um, I played basketball all my life. I went to college to play basketball. It was kind of like, my big dream, right? And then, I got to college and, it's a huge opportunity to be able to go to college on a scholarship and things like that. But sometimes, basketball isn't going the way you kind of want it to go. Um, so, regardless of that, I was, pretty determined um, to take advantage of the opportunity that was handed to me, as a student athlete. So when I was struggling with basketball, I kind of like, was interested in figuring out like why, or even struggling in personal life, personal relationships. So I basically, went on a mission to become the best version of myself, and use that college experience to not just figure out what I wanted to do next, like professionally, but to really like dig deep into yourself to transform yourself. Um, Coaches, just growing up, like coaches and parents, family members, mentors. Um, I don't know if anybody relates to this, but those people around me, when I would ask for guidance on certain things, and how can I get better, personally, um, no one really have answers, or it would kind of be, generic or things like that. And when I was struggling, and everybody told me that I needed to change something, but no one could tell me what actually, what it was, and like how to get from A to B. So I was just determined to figure it out myself. And then from there, I just kind of started studying successful people, um, you know, figuring out how can I be the best version of myself, during this time when I was in college. So basically I created a framework, through my studying successful people of, what actually does it take to be successful? What is self-awareness? What is, you know, going after your purpose and things like that? How do you get an internship? How do you network to get around the people that you need to get around to make sure that your future is secured? So I kind of just went on that mission on my own. And then, in that process, I found out, my purpose. Um, I have a responsibility. Growing up, I had a really good life, blessed with amazing parents, amazing family members, this crazy support system. And, I was listening to a presentation um, by a guy named Manny Ohami. He's the founder of Samaritan's Feet. And this was during my sophomore year in college. Oh, I just finished my freshman year. And basically, what his foundation is about shoes, and raising money for shoes for kids who can't afford them. And I was able to go to that presentation, and then from there, when I heard his story, he said something that resonated with me, and it was like everybody that's blessed has a responsibility to be a blessing. And in that moment, I kind of realized how blessed I was, and I just felt like it was my responsibility to set the example and to not be part of the problem, but be part of the solution. So I had to figure out what I needed to do just that. And end of that, I ended up putting it in the book, because books are what guided me to really dig deep and learn the lessons that I need to learn to better myself. I want to do that for others.
Wow, wow, wow. Aisha, I mean, you went right in on us right from the beginning. I don't know what's going on where you are. If you jogging out there right now, you're on the commute, whatever it is, this is something that you want to replay, look at. It's a few things that I would like to extract out of Aisha that I was able to pick up on. And that's for one thing in this writing process. So when it comes to being an author, you went to something and you didn't say it actually, but it's having a why. If you don't have a big enough why, and one of Aisha whys is to make sure that she paid it forward, that she was able, she had a responsibility because she is blessed to be a blessing to someone else, and also putting it with the legacy piece for years to come. That this information that Aisha has put together with her years of investing in herself to learn and to answer those questions, is others who have that same thought or the same question, but they don't have the answers either. So Aisha was able to come in like AI, with the dribbles, with the handles, and be able to answer it in a book form for us. So I want those who are listening to this, what is your why? Because some of you are going to hear and you're going to say, why Aisha is my girl? And yay, I want to do a book too. That's cool. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't have a big enough why, Aisha why was to make a positive impact on people because she had a responsibility because she was blessed to be a blessing to others. Are you going to have your own why? It might be your kids. It might be the legacy piece that I brought up. You might have a business or you done had success or you went through some things that you don't want other people to go through. It could be a childhood tragedy. It could be dealing with loss. It could be how you were able to even graduate and you're a first generation graduate or whatnot from a college. Whatever that is for you, you have to do a deep dive to figure out because when it gets tough, when you get punched in the mouth, as one of my favorite quotes from the philosopher and former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson said, everybody got to play until they get punched in the mouth. And so if you don't have a big enough why, it's not going to help you move forward. So Aisha, I led that, I threw you an alley hoop right now. I want you to go a little bit deeper and go and dunk on them and let them know about how your why or how having a bigger purpose allow for you to finish this project. Because you hit some potholes. This wasn't an easy
Hmm.
process for you. This has been a 10-year thing. So we're not gonna come over here and just act like everything was flowers and roses and all that. You had to fight to get this project done. So take us to that point. How were you able to fight out of a slump, so to speak, to be able to come out triumphant on this like you've done in other areas in your life?
Yeah, Darren. Your why is huge, and I'm glad that you brought that up because like you just said, this was not an easy project. Um, and one of the reasons why it wasn't an easy project because I'm transitioning to my full time career, and because of the things that I implemented in the book, I was fortunate enough to land a job, at top 25 you know, university in college athletics. So, my professional demands were huge and, trying to write a book as well. So my why had to be um, pretty steep. A big part of my why, you talked about leaving a legacy. And, the books that I read that really transformed my life was one, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And that's a classic. But Stephen Covey is not here anymore, right? And if he wouldn't have wrote that book, what I'm saying, I wouldn't have had the paradigm shift that I had to even be able to dive deep and look into myself. So, that legacy piece is huge, and also um, the having the ability to conceptualize your ideas. So my book is not just full of stories. Um, it's I want it to be repeatable. I want to like anybody who read this could be able to follow these steps and have a similar outcome. Um, same or even better. Hopefully better outcome than what I had. Um, so yeah, so being able to do that was very difficult for me in general for anybody to take your life and conceptualize it and to be able to say, hey, you can do it too. Just follow these steps. Um, So yeah, that legacy piece and your why was huge. And also, um, another thing I wanted to mention was that I had my professional career is exactly in the direction that I wanted to be. So it's like I don't really have to write this book. You know what I'm saying? Like it was so many other things that I'm in my dream job right now, right? So this book didn't have to be written. I could have said, what am I doing this for? Like, I'm working at this amazing school. Like, let me just focus and just do this. You know what I'm saying? So um, it has to be about something bigger than yourself, and I talk about that a lot in the book. In chapter 3 is about um, your purpose and how to find your purpose before you really get into, working on your profession. And then also at the end, you know what I'm saying, learn your legacy when things get hard, keeping your legacy top of mind because you want to create something that's going to live longer than you.
Aisha, Aisha.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know what happened, man. My thing is just clicked off or whatnot, but we good. I have our team just work on it, whatnot. I got your stuff still recorded.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but I just wanted to go into too as well. Miles, while you looking at this, you just be able to take that part out or whatnot, but we'll go ahead and continue. When I look at that why part, Aisha, and what you talked about the legacy, the other thing that I want to go with too for those out there is that you have to dig deeper because, like what Aisha, typically you just hear these horrible stories. These horror stories. And Aisha just alluded to this earlier a couple times. She had great mom, has a great mother, a great father. Okay. Uh, Aisha is blessed and has her dream job. Like her dream job. For those who read the information in the bio and the whole nine, she has a dream job. So this is the thing I like to call it with that Mamba mentality or whatnot. This is how you go from good to great. This is why if you have someone like Aisha who already has a great situation, why is she pushing for more? Some say that if someone has those type of things, this is the myth that's out there. I want to address the elephant in the room that you're not going to be as hungry, that you're not going to be as focused, you're not going to have the dexterity or whatnot to be able to withstand some things. But Aisha is a proven fact that it's all about your why, your mindset, what you want to accomplish, what you want to do. I'm not knocking it, but you don't have to just come from the inner city. You don't just have to have a story where your mom and daddy wasn't together. You don't have to have a job or a career that you hate for that to be the catalyst for you to go to another level. That's a myth, So don't allow for people to give you their narrative or make you feel inadequate because you haven't lived their life. You have to operate and be the best version of you. This is what Aisha is talking about. This in success is my major. I want y'all to who are listening to this is to keep that in mind wherever you are. It doesn't. You might be a single mom or a teenage mom, but that because somebody else think that you can't make it, you can make it. You might be someone who's starting over and you find yourself where you've been furloughed, but success is your major as well. So you have to realize that no matter where you are, just control the controllables, utilize what you have, understand, get clarity on what you want to do, where you want to go, Don't get so caught up on the how, because there will be some pivots, there will be some audibles that will need to be called. But at the end of the day, you can get there with the right strategy, the right mindset. You can get there. Now, Aisha, I want you to go a little bit deeper on this too, if you don't mind. Tell the people, why should they get this book? I know that it can help quite a bit of people, but for those who they might be student athletes, or those who now all of a sudden they're not a student athlete anymore, and they find themselves at Hertz, and it's not the same vibe that it was when they were in the Coliseum, or they find themselves doing something in middle managed somewhere, and they're finding themselves going through some things that they can't even explain. Talk to those, and those who might even be entering into college. How can they benefit from success as my major?
Um, Thank you for that question, Darren. Yeah, and what I've come to learn is successful people, they have struggles too, right? They just have access to different information, and that information is not just publicly, out there broadcasted, right? It is, I call it the invisible journey. It's the invisible journey that nobody's talking about, right? So, um, you'll have feedback from, when you go through life, you'll have feedback. You'll have these quotes, or these things that you think that you should be doing. But real transformation is, it starts within. Um, what I found is, like, even the basis of my book about being a success major is like everybody else studies their profession. They study, what job do you want? And what I've come to find out is the most successful people, they study what type of person do they want to be, and that's the foundation, right? So when I was a freshman orientation leader, I had a 40-year-old man that was in one of my groups, right? So when I was at Radford, I took the job on of hosting people who were coming in, um, as a new freshman, right? And then I had a 40-year-old man in my group. I'm like, hey man, what are you doing here? You're done with school. Mind you, everybody else is 17, 18, what's going on, right? And he said I had a 20-year career, and I realized that I was doing the wrong thing. And I thought that was crazy, right? And that was a real experience that I came across, like, meeting him and things like that. But also when I would go to professional conferences and stuff like that, like I said, I was really ambitious. We would start off every professional conference that I would go to, leadership, right? They'll start off asking people what are their values, right? And these people who are high up in their career, they didn't even know what their values were. They struggled with answering these questions. They struggle with their mission statement, their why, their purpose. And that's what separates the extremely successful people from everybody else, right? The self-awareness aspect. So what I did in this book is I developed a framework to get you on a pathway to success first, right? Instead of going out getting a job and doing all those things um, first, and then you realize at the end of your journey that you wasn't even on the right path. So on a wide scale, that's the basis of it, right? You need a foundation of personal transformation when you are transitioning from being a child and going and becoming an adult, because like I said, is an invisible journey that nobody is talking about. And I like to say, smart man learns from their own mistakes. Wise man learns from the mistakes of others, right? So there's no need to spend 30, 40 years figuring out something that, you know, people who have done before you have already talked about, formulated, and you can learn from their stories to get you on the right path. One thing I don't like to do is to waste time. I don't like to waste time. I don't like to waste energy. And I want to make sure that I'm headed in the right direction. So that's one thing to do. Another thing, you talked about student athletes or just athletes in general, is that one thing I break down in the book is I talk about how can you separate, my experience as a student athlete. Everyone says you don't have time to do internships, you don't have time to get mentors, and I think that's kind of baloney, because I was a Division I student athlete and I had 4 internships as a student athlete. I was networking my butt off. I was attending conferences. I was doing all the things that athletes claim that they can't do. And trust me, I get the schedule. I work in athletics myself. But there are certain things that you can do, and it's also ways that you can communicate your athletic ability. So in my book, chapter 7, I talk about, resumes are not written, they're built, right? And I extract every experience that I had as a student athlete, and I translate and say, this is what could be written on your resume. Um, Teamwork, leadership, managing a difficult schedule, um, competing in a highly competitive environment. Those are things that employers look for, and I extract those things from my student athlete experience and every other experience that I had while I was in college, and I break down like, how can I um, communicate what I'm able to do or my experience and put it in a resume, or just, in that question they asked, tell me about yourself, right? Most people don't even know that answer. And I just talk about the invisible journey. I talk about the things that nobody's talking about.
Man, I love what you just shared, Aisha, when you talked about the importance of, who you want to be instead of going after a job or even a career. Like, who do you want to be? And what you just brought up with that is so deep. It's some of those questions that you talked about, rhetorical questions or whatnot. But, you know, but at the same time, that's real. How many of us have actually sat down? How many people in the world have actually sat down with that one question that you just brought up? Who do you want to be? Not who do your mama want you to be, who your daddy wants you to be, who your big mama wants you to be, who your significant other, who your spouse, who your kids want you. Who do you want to be? What you think people think that you should be because you come from this city or this area or this region or this country. Who do you, and this is something that cross over no matter what ethnic background you come from, no matter what socioeconomic ladder or whatnot that you feel like that you're climbing. This doesn't matter. It's so many people who are dealing with this issue because people have put them in a silo and said that this is just who you have to be because, like I say, of your gender, of your level of education, and I think it's bold for that 40-year-old gentleman that you talked about to be able to do the pivot, to be able to say, because some people would have used that as a crutch and as an excuse and would have just said, well, if I was going to change it, I should have changed it 20 years ago. No, that gentleman has probably years to go. So there's no sense of him waking up at 60 or 65 saying, oh, if I would have only just made that change then. Oh, how my life could have been different. How his enthusiasm for us, the things that he did on a daily basis would be different. How, the totality as far as what that mean in his mental health and his physical health, what that would mean for his emotional uh, um, understanding with his family or whatever the situation may be for him. So for those of you who out there listening, what Aisha is sharing with us is something that, yes, it can help those who are student athletes. Yes, it can help those who are in college. Yes, it's a great way to start. But the information that she has, success is transferable. So if you're somebody out there right now, you don't have to know about creating an app or creating a funnel, but it might be something that's in your wheelhouse, like Aisha brought up with her resume. It's some things that your years in the marketplace that are valuable, but you have to deem and understand that they're valuable. And what I picked up from Aisha too as well is that she deemed and realized she had the right perspective, a paradigm shift to be able to value what she did on the court could be utilized and could be monetized off the court. So those of you, whether it's, you know, being an engineer at home, or whether it's something that you're doing far as nonprofit work, but you didn't realize that that nonprofit work you was doing could still be utilized in the marketplace as well. It's so many ways that you can learn from what Aisha is bringing up to us today. And Aisha, speaking of that, I don't want to talk about all this without bringing up how can they connect with you on social media? How can they order a copy of the book? Please share all the information on how they can connect with you.
I'm super active on social media. So my Instagram is at Grow with Aisha, and actually made an Instagram for the book, and that is at the Success Major, and then Twitter same thing at Grow with Aisha, and then at the Success Major, and then the page to order my book is www.successismymajor.com, and then you can get all the information about the book and kind of a deeper outline of kind of what I addressed in the book.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Aisha, I want to say congratulations to you. Those who are listening, go get the book. This young lady, as you can tell, she's already a sage of sort, by putting that work in. So I love what Aisha is sharing with those for student athletes out there. And I know what it is too, being a student athlete myself. It's easy for us, and I'm not knocking it. The struggle is real sometimes. I get it, but I'm just telling you, where there's a will, there's a way. That's all I want those out there listening to understand. Like Aisha was still able to get interns, even though she played ball, even though she still had the grueling schedule that everybody else had. But she utilized her time to get what she could get done. Control the controllables. So I want those who are listening out there. She found a way to benefit herself with her resume by understanding and seeing the parallels, what she was doing on the court and off the court. And let's just take a pause and get an understanding of this. Aisha is sharing with us. It's about your vision. What are you seeing? What are you thinking? Where are you emotionally? What are you imagining? And what are you doing to enhance your intellect? But those are the areas of the soul that you need to understand: your mind, your will, your emotions, your intellect, and your imagination. A lot of you all are out there being robbed because those five components that make up your soul, your prosper being health as your soul prosper. But if you don't understand your mind, your will, your emotions, your imagination, and your intellect, and if you're not pouring into those areas, if you're not seeing right, or if you're not having clarity, you could have access. You can have acres of diamonds, but you'll never mine for them because you're not seeing it the right way. So I want to thank you, Aisha, for mining your acres of diamonds, utilizing what you had and not making excuses so you can benefit people just like Stephen Covey has did for so many for years to come because you chose to think outside the box. So I want to say thank you, ma'am, for all you do, all that you represent. And I just want to be of assistance and help any way we can. Thank you for coming on to Author Spotlight.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I forgot to share this. I just got a text community. So if you want to be a part of that to get updates and just motivation throughout the day and things like that, text Palmer to 757-654-5832. Palmer to 757-654-5832, for updates and stuff about just the book and just motivation things like that. Darren, thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure working with you and your team. You guys have been great, sticking with me and bearing with me through this difficult process, but definitely a rewarding one. I appreciate you and everything that you do.
Man, the feeling is mutual, my friend. The feeling is mutual, whatnot. And thank you so much. And for those who are listening, remember, this is a way that you can major in your success by listening to people like Aisha Foy, following her, getting on the phone number, getting the messages that you need when you're having a trying time or to have somebody to celebrate with you. So we'll have all that information and more in the show notes about Miss Aisha Foy. Go get the book. Go get the book. Don't take my word for it. Go get it yourself. And I'm telling you, you won't regret it. Until next time, remember, if you won't change, be the change. Be blessed and be great.